Welcome. This is a shot of shedding a sheep. You'll notice the dogs separate them into two categories, which is very, very hard to do. Few shots of goats up front. We're going to do a video, but these are a few still shots to show you the power of the dogs and how they can actually get these goats to stand up on that. So we got a couple dogs behind them, and you can see them move, and they're pushing the goats towards the table, and that's just the eye pressure of the dogs. Oh, watch out, you're gonna get crushed. This is people, kids, trying to push the sheep through the race. So we try, look at the adults, the kids, come on, get those sheep out. But the front sheep is holding it up. Now they're all gonna go because they don't wanna be the last sheep left behind. That's a great video. And now the kids have to go through. Watch. The kids have got to go through. They got to go through. It doesn't get counted. Here they come. Come on, kids. Hurry up. Hurry up. Let's go, kids. You can do it. All right. Very good. You know the bad part about this part of the demonstration? Later on, we have to do the same thing that the children do, which means we have to go through the race. And of course, the dogs love to be patted and rewarded after a dog demo. You can see they're very friendly and the big crowd pleaser. Well, we obviously have puppies, so you can see that, which we only sell to working farms because these dogs are so powerful, they need a job to do. But we take excellent care of our puppies, as you can see. Here is how we raise our puppies. Okay, these puppies were born in the winter and they have a heat lamp, and they're very curious puppies, very cute. We tell a lot about a dog. We can even tell at like 6 weeks of age if it's going to be a good sheepdog, cattle dog. Is it a dog that is a dog type or a human type? You know, what does it like? Does it dominate the dog dish? We can tell a lot about them. And so we have clients that will buy these puppies, and it's a lot of work to raise puppies. We don't raise puppies to make money. We raise puppies to help farmers out. Some of my farmers are on their 4th generation of dogs, but you can see they're very healthy, very well played with and all. That's what we call an armload of puppies. And we teach them at a young age about electric fence and to play. Kind of a cute picture of all of them waiting for their food. And we actually teach them to swim at about 7 weeks of age. I make a distinction between working and playing, very important in my opinion, to give them some fun. And I'll explain that later. That's the group. And you can see there is also a Great Pyrenees and a Bernese Mountain Dog, which we use as guard dogs. Getting ready to go to work to set up some net and move some sheep. And after a long drive down through town and all, everybody jumps in the back of the car to go back home. Now, this picture is important. This is the reason that dogs can move huge animals. I've moved over 100,000 pounds of cattle with one dog. You look in those eyes and they are incredibly powerful. This dog is going to literally wear, that's what we call the sheep with its eyes, and can move huge amounts of animals because it is a predator and the other sheep, etc., are hunted animals. So remember that glance. You can see they're very, very intellectual, very smart. This is called wearing, and they're walking in. All their energy is on their front legs and their butt is up in the air, and they're putting really powerful sight onto the sheep. We work all kinds of animals. I would not raise pigs if I didn't have the dogs to be able to go in and move them away from a trough. And we also can work cattle. And every time they work, they assume a different, what we call pressure point. I'll explain that later. We also have a Great Pyrenees. I only like to show that as another dog that allows the predatory border collies to work, although his main job is to protect the flock. So it's kind of neat that one dog is benevolent energy and the sheep aren't afraid, and the other dogs are somewhat predatory and they move out of their way. So here we are just practicing some techniques, and you can see that dogs can switch between cattle, sheep, pigs, and we start the puppies on ducks because these are Indian runners and they don't fly. And here's a video showing moving some chickens, which sounds difficult, sounds easy, excuse me, but it's actually very difficult. Chickens don't gather and flock the way sheep and ducks do. They never ever bite a chicken. Silly shot, but we actually at shearing time have the dogs run across sometimes the back of the sheep, push them into the pens for shearing, and you'll notice that the sheep are just sitting there. This is a shearing video just to show you a little bit about shearing. I know you get to see it. So we shear the sheep just before they lamb, about a month, because if we didn't, most mammals, including you ladies, can have a weak point in their fiber because they put so much energy into their gestation. And if we sheared the sheep, didn't shear the sheep, excuse me, and sheared it 2 months later, it would break right where they're sheared. Now, what this has to do with dogs is there's a dog off to the left. And when this gentleman gets done shearing this sheep, which is just about to happen, the dog is going to push it into the porthole. There's another shear. We can do two at once. Shearing's a big deal. It's a lot of fun. We'll shear about 140 sheep in a morning and pack the wool. And now these sheep, even though it's winter, will be indoors. They're fine. They have 2 coats of wool underneath them and an extra skin. We're using what we call a cover comb so that we don't get them sheared too close. This picture is important because you need to understand that the dogs will never ever hurt a lamb. The lambs come over, the lambs lie by them, the lambs will sometimes jump on them or butt them, and the dogs are really sweet. They never ever bite or hurt a lamb. However, guess what? The lambs become teenagers, and then they have to learn that the dog means business. Again, look at how that sheep is not afraid of Ajax, our Great Pyrenees, to sniff that lamb. Pretty remarkable, 125-pound predator, but he's giving benevolent protective energy. Here's the dog licking it off. Ajax has actually brought missing lambs back to the mother. This is just a fun little video showing the lambs. They're just so happy. You let them out and they're jumping in the air and having a great time, very happy. This is probably late February, early March. Okay, this is bringing sheep home, lambs home in December, and walking them down the road. You saw the earlier picture, and it's very, very hard to separate a ewe from her lambs. So we just move the whole flock. There's probably 300 animals there, and those lambs have been 100% grass-fed, absolutely, even up to December. So we move animals a lot. You'll see some video later with just dogs, not because to be cute, but because it's an efficient way to move them. It's not stressful for the sheep. They're not being jammed in a trailer, and you know, their health is important, and we usually use 3 or 4 dogs to do it. And you'll see that later. Always have the llama tethered. We're going to explain about the llama later when I have a little more time, where you can ask me a question about it. This is our little town, main road, was an old railroad depot, and we're bringing these animals home for another pasture. All right, so here we have some dogs sitting ready to go out. Very important that the dogs do not jump ahead, because they would get all the sheep all jumbled up. I wouldn't know who had lambs, who didn't. So the dogs are waiting, and in a minute, I'm going to tell them to go out and get the sheep. I haven't had a chance to explain to you all about why the dogs work and how they work, but they work with their eyes. They are given clockwise and counterclockwise commands, and how close they get to the sheep would make a difference as to how fast they move. So here they are going out to round up some sheep. You can't even see the sheep. I don't even know where they are. They're way, way down there somewhere, but they will be coming back. Now I'm going to send another dog out. That's called a brace. So we send 2 dogs out, one clockwise and one counterclockwise. And I'm giving whistle commands because they're out of voice shot. The commands are come by for clockwise and away to me for counterclockwise. And here, look at what you see. Here they come. There's only about 40 here, 35 or 40. And the dogs are bringing them back, but they're not running like crazy. And so they slow them down a bit. And we're going to get them right over. When you handle animals, the dogs do so much work for you. I don't have to worry about running after a bunch of sheep and trying to catch them. So they're now bringing them up close to me. I can look at them, who's sick, who doesn't feel well, who's limping, who's got a problem. And I can also pretty much hold them right there. But if you notice, if I move the back dog, which is Gracie, she's going to now come forward a bit, and you're going to see them come closer to me. So the position of the dog is critical. The dog ideally wants to put the sheep between me and her or him. So now I'm going to have to send her out counterclockwise, you'll see, and she's going to go around and bring them back to me again. Bonnie is over in the left. There's another dog over in the left, which you don't see in this video.
There, down. See how quickly that stopped that? Gracie, come by. There, down. Now in this situation,
and so they're now going around, and we're going to bring them a little closer. I'm in my 70s, not that that makes a difference, but trying to catch sheep is a trick. I can reach right over with my crook and grab any one of these. You'll notice a few goats in there. The goats are there because they love thistles. And goats are kind of a pain in the neck, but they do a great job at that. So we always throw a few goats in for good measure. That's Bonnie working right now.
notice they're starting to move gently. Now don't forget they're not moving fast because Gracie.
Okay, I just gave her a command.
That's the typical border collie pose. Down on its front leg, up in its butt.
Okay, so now we've got Bonnie, and I've just told her to go come by, which is clockwise, and now I'm going to have her come to me and go counterclockwise. And you'll see she'll go completely around them and bring them right back towards me. So it's very, very useful to handle the animals this way. I use my crook. We never, ever hit the dog with the crook. Don't think that, but the crook is used to catch the sheep if I want to bring it over and work on it. These sheep here are 2 years old. They're what we call a hogget. A hogget's a 2-year-old, a gimmer's a 3-year-old, and replacements are 1-year-old.
The DOT dog has not moved. She's right there. So I'm going to show you something interesting. Great, away, get back. Lie down, down. Bonnie, come by, get back. No, out. Combine. Right there. Right down. Okay, so the sheep are pretty much there. Now you notice they're walking away from me a little bit because I'm kind of scary. Duck, duck. There.
So I am yelling commands at them at this time. Clockwise, counterclockwise, we say down. If the dog is down, then it does not pose as much energy threat to the animals as if they stand. You never have a border collie sit. Sitting is not a good position to move them on. You can see that the goat is right up next to me now. Goat, little hair fact for you folks, but goat is the most widely consumed red meat in the world. And lamb is second, and American beef is a lowly third. So people find that amusing. And I will also tell you that 150 years ago to 100 to 200 years ago, 80% of New England was open, and sheep were the mainstay of agriculture back then. That's why we have all these rock walls deep in the woods, and you wonder why. Then right after the Civil War and the Midwest opened up, they all moved out there. You'll notice in the middle of this, there's one sheep that's much bigger than the others, and that's the ram. So we don't want to move these guys too fast for your dog demonstration because they're settling right now. The ram is the one looking at me right now, big black one. But the point is, these sheep are not going anywhere, and I could be talking to you and explaining what's going on, and they're just staying right there because of the border collie's eyes. Now, pressure point, I haven't talked about. Pressure point is the point at which the sheep will turn and fight the dog. So it's very important that you not put too much pressure on them. They will move out of the way conveniently and in a non-threatening way. But if they got up really close, then the sheep has no choice but to fight them. And every type of animal I have has a different pressure point. Sheep are different than goats, they're different than pigs, they're different. Can you see the dog back there? That's Gracie. And she's pretty far back, but she's moving those sheep with her eyes. Those of you in the audience that believe in energy, these dogs have tremendous energy. Now I have another dog driving them right towards Gracie. And you'll notice that she balanced. What that means is she moved in an opposite way that I move to keep the sheep evenly between me and her. So they're coming back again. Very good. Now they just did a shed. I didn't realize that was coming. So shedding is very hard to do because a sheep's only natural defense is more sheep. So when you cut 30 sheep into two groups of 15, they get more nervous. Why would you do that? Well, maybe I can only handle 15 in my trailer, or maybe I can only handle 15 in one of those buildings. So that's called shedding. And we do it with two dogs opposite each other, and they literally just come right through the middle of them, and the sheep are afraid to get back together. So Bonnie's coming around, bringing them over again. My guess is, I can't see in the picture, that Gracie is off to my left, and in a minute you're going to see them once again separate into two groups. Right about, if I remember correctly now. And maybe that wasn't it. So you get the idea. We don't need to go on. Gracie, for those of you that might have remembered the 2017 dog demo at Common Ground, was 15 weeks old and working these animals at that age. So very, very strong, powerful dog. One of the best I've had in a long time. She's 3, as I said earlier in the introduction, and Bonnie is 11. So they're right in a corner now. If I wanted to put them out that gate, or if I wanted to, worm them or handle them, this is what we do. We push them right in the corner, and then I can walk right over and grab anybody I want. If you're wondering what that other object is, that's a house for the dog that spends the night outside. So see, I just went right in, grabbed the sheep I want, I'm holding on to it, and then I let it go. Right, what we do is we just flip it on its side. We're not hurting it. We pick it up by its head, flip it on its rump. Sorry, in the picture, the doghouse is in the way. And I can treat it, take care of it, do whatever I need to do to it. And then I can just let go of it. She'll drop down. You know, I'm probably inspecting its feet, that kind of thing. We do have to be careful of things like foot rot. So very useful to have the dogs, because when I let the sheep go, I'm going to be able to just have the dogs bring me another one. Let's see what happens here. The sheep is not in agony or pain here. She's just sitting pretty comfy. I put my feet under her coccyx. Now she's just going to get up and she's going to walk back to the others. And if I wanted them to bring me more sheep, I'm probably going to grab my crook, but the dogs will do so. So that's a useful thing that we do all the time. So you see Dottie's in the background against the fence. Bonnie's right there, and they're going to walk in and push him back in the corner, just like that. So that's how we would do it. And usually after we treat an animal, we will mark it with a spray marker that tells me that it's been checked or done or whatever we're doing to it. You can see with 3 dogs, and notice how they're back. Did you just see that dog take 2 steps forward and look at, they're moving away from her. She's got very strong eyes. So again, I don't want to beat this to death, but pressure point is very important. We want to make the sheep comfortable in the corner, and then I can very carefully walk in amongst them. If you're wondering what that gray object is in the middle, that is a salt feeder that keeps the salt. You always feed sheep loose salt, not block. And because it's loose, it has to be protected from the rain. And so that salt feeder spins with the wind. Okay, once again, we got them right there. And I think we're going to, if I remember this video, we're going to let some of them go, but not all of them. Let's see what happens. See how slowly they're moving now? And that's because there's a dog on 2 sides of them. All right. So then they stop. And let's see what happens. I can remember this video here. They're out of the corner, and I think we're putting some back. See how they round up like a bunch of Conestoga wagons. They're just circling around, and that's, again, because of the eyes of the sheep, keeping them right there. Now you'll notice that the dogs are down. I went through this earlier, but if I want to put pressure on them, I will have them stand, never sit. It's either down or stand. We use the command there. I think they're going to split them right now. Let's see what happens. Yeah, see, I had to move her over a little bit. And there you go. You got 2 groups. And that might look easy. That's very hard to do. And I'll tell you why it's hard to do this. The dog's main purpose is to keep the sheep together, right? And the sheep's main purpose in life is to stay together. That's their only natural defense. So when you separate them, you increase the anxiety, and you notice that the dogs have kept them at bay. So it's only the dog's eyes are the only thing keeping these 2 groups separate. See them back there? They're dying to go back to the other group because the other guys are free, they think. So I'm going to allow the dog to let them go by turning her head. Look at this. She just turned her head, and bing, away they go. And look, in we come again, and we separate them again. So it's kind of cool what happens. So that's a quick little demo of some of the stuff that we do with these dogs in terms of working. This morning, actually, we just moved 100 sheep down the road. You're going to see that in a minute. So that's kind of fun. You get the idea. If I was blowing a whistle right now, I would blow that was a nice shed. Do you see them split? So low, high, see how fast that dog is? Those sheep turned right around and went, okay, we're going back to the others. We're not going to mess with Grace. Again, we've had almost 14,000 lambs born in the farm, and I've only had one animal that had a bite that I had to stitch, which is pretty amazing. They don't want to bite the meat because you guys are going to eventually eat the meat. We have what we call 3 commands for grip. And the first one is a teeth gnashing. They don't touch the animal. The second is a pulling the wool. And if you get involved in animals like cattle and pigs, then you might grab a little scratch. But that's a pretty good example of shedding. And as I said, the whistle, see it's in my mouth now, and that would send them that direction, or that sends them in the other direction. Then when they get where I want them, I go, and if I want them to come here, I go. And if I want them to go back, I go. They know about 20 whistles. This is a multi-tone whistle, so I could play the Stars Spangled Banner on it if I wanted to. It's kind of cool. I would say about 20 whistles and about 30 commands. Down, stay, get back, heel, walk in, clockwise, counterclockwise, shed. These are all different commands.
Walk up, walk up, walk up, walk up. All right.
This is an example of us wanting to work some sheep. So they're in this tall field. You can't even see the dogs. They're out of sight. This proves to you that their energy is moving them. The young girl you see on the side works for me, Rebecca, and we have 3 or 4 sheep that need some help. There's Bonnie, you can see her now in the corner, and we're keeping them in this corner, and Rebecca is going to go gather one with the crook. You watch. She's going to go, and because they're stuck, she can grab it, she can pull it back, she's going to grab it by its head. Once you have the animal's head, notice that she has complete control of it. She's then going to have the dogs go back a bit. We're going to flip that sheep on its back and we're going to treat it. I think that's the one that had an eye problem, got a stick hit its eye, scratched its cornea, and we're just treating it. But you can see we're in the middle of a huge pasture and the dogs are keeping them right there. So one important thing that you need to know, the most important command out of all the ones I told you is the command to stop. You're done working. If you don't establish that, what's going to happen? Those dogs are going to work all the time. So we reward them. Now, a lot of people don't do that, but I want you to know these are our family members. And playing Frisbee with them is actually an important part of their training. These are soft Frisbees. They love to play Frisbee. And they know that they did a good job because if they didn't, I wouldn't play Frisbee with them. So I just wanted you to understand that. And you'll notice if the sheep were nearby, I could literally throw the Frisbee right in the middle of the sheep. The dog would go in and catch the Frisbee right in the middle of the sheep and leave. And the sheep wouldn't even move because they're not staring at them. It's kind of cool. These dogs are smart enough that I actually can throw 4 Frisbees and believe it or not, say, bring me back 2, 3, or 4. So that's kind of cool. And so they just love it. And every day we play Frisbee at the end of the day, just the way, you know, we might go for a swim or go for a game of tennis or a hike or whatever. They like to play Frisbee. So that's their little thing. If any of you have ever watched the demos from prior years, you know it's a big part of what we do. And you see, we give them a pet. She's very happy. She says, I did a good job, Dad. Okay, so one of the things that we do a lot here is having to move animals. And we're going to walk these animals up to a new pasture. We have the electronet, and you're wondering, what kind of food am I feeding them? This is actually a hay field that didn't get cut in time, and we're going to hay it as straw. But meantime, the sheep are getting the cream of the crop. So you'll notice the llama is being led in a halter because we don't want him loose. And the sheep are going by. Again, there's about 100 sheep. We've got a dog on each side. That mountain you see is called Mount Monadnock. It's the most climbed mountain in the world. Very beautiful mountain. You see the hay wagons on the side. So the only thing keeping these sheep together in this big 16-acre field is the dogs. So we're going to walk along, And you'll see as we get going, we always take a gator with us in case an animal gets weak or hurts its foot or something and can't make the trip. We have orange vests on because we're about to go down onto a road with traffic. So we're coming down. You'll see the two dogs flanking in the front. So the front dogs are keeping the sheep from running me over. And at the back is another dog that's keeping them going forward. At this point, we put the llama at the back. All right, now we're coming down through the woods from this field. We have the llama at the back because if the llama was up front and a predator dog came along, the llama would go after it and the sheep would go after the llama. So instead, the sheep just come along and nicely walking behind us. And you'll see in a minute, I can stop them anytime I want. So in a minute, I'm going to walk forward and I'm just going to turn around and tell the dogs to hold them. And you'll see they just stop right there. They don't go anymore. I can give them a breath of fresh air. I can, check them out, make sure everything's going okay. Take a look for an animal that might be limping or whatever, and then say, okay. And you watch, the dogs are going to go forward right about now, maybe. So I'm going to call them off and you'll see them run forward. But it's good to have control, sort of like the brake on a car. I can stop them. And there they go. And this is moving them further down the road. Okay. This is the field coming up. And you see Bonnie's just sitting right there and Gracie's behind them. And we're just keeping them slowly coming. This field is one that I created a while ago. And we're coming across a paved part of the road. There's a car coming. So we keep Gracie in front and let the sheep go around so it doesn't buff the car too much. The placement of the dog is critical to this. And now you can see they're going right by that car, no problem. And we continue down the road and Dottie is keeping a nice distance. That dog at the back has a tremendous amount of power on these sheep. Now, the sheep occasionally would love to stop and eat that nice green grass on the side of the road, but Dottie at the back keeps them from doing that. You'll notice that I hold my crook at a right angle, and that sort of augments the two front dogs. Now, why two front dogs? Well, we don't really need to have two front dogs except for when we go by people's driveways. And believe me, your neighbor would not be happy if the sheep turned and went in his driveway and totally wiped out an entire season's worth of growth in the vegetable garden. So we will place dogs in an area where we think they might turn. Now we've got an area coming up in a minute where there are rams in another pasture, and the girls are going to want to get together with that ram. Well, we don't want that to happen. So we just be patient. We're going to walk a little further here, hopefully in this clip. And you're going to see a road to the right, which they'd love to go down. And instead, we're going to put Gracie there to keep them from doing that. And then the next picture is going to be a place they like to go, which is the farm. And so we don't want them to go to the farm. We want them to go up the road to a big 8-acre field down there with lots of lush grass. All right. So we've gone by, you see there's a driveway, a car's pulled into it. You can't quite see, but we've sent Gracie out around to the right, and she is actually by that car so that the sheep don't go in that driveway. And there's another driveway, and there's another car on the left. So we actually ran into 6 cars doing this move. So the people are usually pretty nice and they stop, which is great. I tell them I'm not going to charge them for simonizing the size of the car if the sheep touch it. But you can see they're pretty close to it, but they're not afraid of the car. Now, coming up, and hopefully we have this footage, is a pasture with water, which they love to do. And we have put 2 dogs to keep them away from that. I'm afraid we might have missed that, but that's okay. So we place dogs wherever we don't want the sheep to go. And that's important as you're going. Now you'll notice that I told the dogs to stay in this area, and that's why the sheep are all around me. Notice I'm at the back of the sheep now, And that's because the dog did not go up front until the last minute because it was guarding that pond on the left. Now you'll see in a second, Gracie's going to come racing by, and there she goes, bing. And we're going to walk these sheep up to the top of the hill. There's some of our fencing in the woods, which has been there for 30 years on trees. And see how forested this is? Well, we cleared the field you're about to see from that, and it makes a wonderful pasture. We usually graze it 4 times a year. It's about 8 acres, and those sheep will flatten 8 acres in 2 weeks completely. So that's good. Now here's a drive. Look on the right, see the dog guarding the driveway? That's Gracie. We put her over there. Bonnie's coming, very important. And she will stay there till half the sheep go by. Once half the sheep go by, then she will break, you'll see, and race forward because those other sheep want to be together with her. So there she goes off around the corner, and she's going to guard the next driveway. So very important that, and it's hard on the dog because the dog thinks the sheep are getting away, but she'll stay there. See her right in the corner, and she knows her job. And in just a minute, once again, you should see her race by. There she goes, racing up ahead of them again. Okay, so here we're entering an intersection. It's very important that we control these sheep because there are cars all around. And you'll notice a nice sweep. You'll see Gracie on the side and Bonnie coming along, and it's because they want to go back to where they came from. And you'll see I sent Grace out behind them to move them forward. And now they're going to come along. And then Gracie's going to go back again. And pretty soon they're going to start following me. And there we go. Now this is a main road with traffic. In a minute, I'll push them over to the right side of the yellow line. We're going to skip ahead a bit, and now they're almost back to the beginning, their new location. Watch them. They're going to have more fun going in there. And Gracie is guarding them, and Gracie looks back. Dad, did I do a good job? Look at them. Just flying by, and they are just happy as heck.
Okay, that'll do. Come.
They just got done rounding them up. There's 100 animals coming towards us, and they're coming up towards these grain troughs. I mean, look at that. It's like a thundering crowd. If I was anywhere near there with grain now, I'd become road pizza. So this is a different video. This is a video you can see there's no leaves in the trees. This is in the fall, in the winter, after they've been weaned off, and these animals are being fed whole corn to keep their energy up. But imagine the power of those dogs to hold that 100 sheep back at the beginning. And now we give the command, okay, out, that'll do. And they're going to come out and they're going to want to jump in the car, bing, bing. Poor Dottie's so old, she needs a little help getting up there. And the llama is just sitting there and eating up the food. This is a time lapse of the entire day. Watch the people materialize. This is the early morning. Oh, bingo, 1,000 people. Oh, they're gone. Bingo, 1,000 people. Oh, they're gone. At any rate, it's a lot of fun. That's what you guys are missing. I'm sorry, but this is the best I can do. All right, well, listen, you have been a wonderful group. I really thank you for this. I have to tell you, in my 40 years of doing dog demos, this is the first time I've ever done a virtual one. We are going to follow this with a live stream question and answer period for you. So get your questions together. And John Simmons is going to be doing it on Sunday. I do it again Friday and Saturday. It's been a real pleasure having you. And I hope you learned a few things about this. And hopefully next year, you'll see the real thing at the fairgrounds. Thank you all. And don't forget to help Mafka out. They're doing this all as a free thing for you, but would be great if you'd give them at least the admission of the fair. Thank you so much.